I get a lot of Steam friend requests. About 50% of the people who add me ask if I can teach them how to fly in ArmA 3. I go on their Steam page and they've got under 300 hours, rookie numbers. Suffice to say, even with ArmA 3's age going 7 years strong, there are certainly plenty of new players in need of flying lessons. Now you've come to the right place, as this is one of the main focuses of this very channel. Now if you're just getting started with flying, please have a gander at my key bindings, which I've left in the description, as the default binds are absolute trash. And also take a look at my previous flight tutorials, as those videos go into deeper detail about the general principles of ArmA 3 flight, the types of landings and how to do them well. Today we're focusing on the J-hook landing. And before we start, I'd just like to give a quick thanks to all that tuned in to my Star Citizen review. That video absolutely blew up, and I'm sorry I haven't managed to get to all of your comments. Usually I pride myself on replying to every single comment, but my inbox was getting absolutely flooded. I'll have to put together more reviews in that unbiased sort of format, as people seem to really appreciate it. Anyway, what is a J-hook landing? Well, like the bleed flare, it's another badass and extremely difficult to master landing. In this video, I hope I can give you the skills you need to do it not only well, but consistently. The art of flying transport helos is not just being a show-off who can do fancy manoeuvres, it's doing it well over and over again, so people come back and trust your piloting. The J-hook is characterised by its own name, a J-hook. If I show an example of this landing from above, you'll understand what I mean. The top part of the letter J is where I approach, and the tight curve at the bottom is where I hook around to land. Now this is actually a great type of landing in combat scenarios. You can be flying nap of the earth at top speed and descend onto your LZ in seconds. It's quick, specialist and high risk, so get your landing hat on and be prepared to die a lot in the editor. The editor, hopefully that is. Hopefully you're not practicing this in live multiplayer servers. Please, for the love of God, don't do it! Because of the nature of this type of landing and how many things can go wrong, we're going to load up my favourite practice scenarios on the Steam Workshop, Dr. Strange Pete's Heli Practice Pack. Now what's great about this scenario is you can keep spawning up in the air straight after you crash. No wasted time in loading screens, just restart and go again. And with something as technical as flying, there's never such a thing as too much practice. So how do you do it? Let's go through some multiplayer clips in slow-mo detail, and then we'll do a recap at the end to show what we've learned. Jesus Christ, that was close. Okay, so I'm leveling out at 180 kilometers an hour, quite low to the ground. I'm in AO territory and I haven't actually begun turning yet. And then you'll see I suddenly bank the helo to the left whilst holding the X key. X is my pitch up key. This combination of movements bleeds off my speed in seconds. Now this is where precision matters. Luckily, because the frame rate is so shit, it kind of acts as a form of slow motion, meaning I can take my time here. Notice how I bob the helo back and forth. Get too greedy with that banking motion and you'll simply slide into the ground. I level out just before I hit the houses in front, and I guide the helo down with some more aggressive cyclic motions. Job's a good un. So with the second clip, we begin this one also nap of the earth once again, and that's almost top speed in the Melb Littlebird on RHS King of the Hill. This one's a bit of a rare one. I will very rarely J-hook to the right, as I have more cockpit clutter on the right hand side. So as you can see, I have my sights set on the industrial compound, which is a very popular place for pilots to land. I begin the first part of the hook around the perimeter of the compound. It's always good to pick large areas like this that offer the best of both worlds, lots of cover to protect your troops, and a nice big flat spot right in the middle to fit the helo. Again, notice how I'm bobbing the helo gently by tapping, not holding, the X key. As I get closer to my desired landing spot, I become more aggressive and hold that X key for even longer. Right here, see how it quickly pulls me around. I maintain that tight arc and the bottom of the hook curls around a bit more so I don't hit that building. You don't have to get as close to obstacles as I do, but it's a great example of the kinds of close, hot and impromptu landings you can achieve with the J-hook manoeuvre. So this one was filmed on the beautiful island of Malden. Now keep in mind, in more serious high stakes operations like Invade and Annex or Milsim play sessions, I'll have an LZ pre-marked. But on King of the Hill, I'm usually thinking on my feet as to where I'll land. I know this AO really well, so in this case I knew I would land somewhere on the big football pitch. This clip was actually filmed in 2017. Notice how I level out the helo whilst tapping the S key to reduce my altitude. This balances out my speed and altitude, so when I come into my J-hook turn, I don't overshoot by flying too fast. I flip the helo slightly to the right to readjust my approach. Now the J-hook can be made in a really tight arc, so you'll need to do this to make sure you're lined up with where you want to end up. I pitch out over the vineyard and then I go into pretty much a 90-degree bank. The helo is fully on its left side. The poor passengers on the left bench have probably either suffered a cardiac arrest or fallen to their deaths. Whilst all of this is happening, I'm holding the X key to make sure the helo bleeds off all of that remaining speed before landing. The helo feels like it's slowed down at around 60 km an hour, so I can level out last minute and perform a backwards flare, putting me right on the green football pitch. Now we've gone through some multiplayer examples, it's time to break it down in the editor with one of my favourite tools for helicopter flight tutorials, unit play and unit capture, so I can record and replay my helicopter manoeuvres over and over again. Now let's recap what to do and what not to do. What to do. Begin your hook turn after you've balanced your speed and altitude. You achieve this by holding the S key to reduce altitude whilst gradually pulling back on the cyclic. This has the effect of priming your helicopter for landing so it's easier to control. Tap the X key whilst decreasing throttle. If you're in a tighter landing zone and there's obstacles about, you may need to hold the X key to create a tighter arc. This is at the penalty of high risk, more chances of crashing. Only do it if you're a skilled pilot. Once you're in your arc, bob the helo back and forth so you bank in and out of the arc. This helps to slow down your landing so you don't crash, always keeping control. When the helicopter feels slow and ready for more gentle input, you can flare backwards with the cyclic, and this can be done at around 60 km an hour and below. Well done, old chap, you've completed a J-hook landing. What not to do? Do not try landing without balancing out your speed and altitude first. In the editor, you can take that risk, but in multiplayer, where a variety of dangers like telegraph wires and trees can pop out of nowhere, it's not worth the waste of your, and more importantly, your passengers' time. You'll be too fast, and most likely, you won't be able to tame the helo into a smooth, controlled landing, and that'll just end in tears. Do not try to compensate for a lack of balance state by holding down the X key. It can be tempting, and sometimes, and I use this word specifically, sometimes, you will be able to fluke it and salvage the mess of an approach you just made and get it down. But otherwise, it will end in a burning little bird and some angry passengers. Simply skirt around the AO for a longer arc and put the helo down in a different spot. Your passengers will thank you for it. Do not try and backwards flare when the helicopter is not fully out of the arc. The purpose of the arc is to get your speed below 60 km an hour so you can land. Try to backwards flare when you're going faster than that and you're coming out of a steep bank, and you'll see lots of fireworks inside your cockpit and then a rage quit. Take it nice and slow, and again, keeping control. Right, so guys, if you enjoyed this kind of shorter flying tutorial and it helps you out a little bit, I would absolutely love it if you could leave me a rating, a comment, and even a subscription. It would absolutely mean the world to me. Now, I have 2 more Star Citizen videos on the way. One is called Star Citizen Goes on Trial, which should be pretty interesting. And I have another one, which is actually a flight guide for the ships in the game. Have a fantastic rest of the week, guys and girls. Tom out.